Good evening. I'm Teresa Skubik, and this is Forum Daily for Thursday, January 9th. As the Canadian political landscape shifts in the wake of Justin Trudeau's resignation, it does not appear as though surging support for the Conservatives is slowing down. A new poll conducted by Abacus Data shows that Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party are sitting at 47% in the polls, with the Liberals trailing far behind at 20% and the NDP at 18%. The CEO of the polling company tweeted that this is the highest the Conservatives have polled in the last 14 years. And a potential contender for leader of the federal Liberal Party has bowed out of the race before it has officially begun.
And after sleeping on it this morning, I decided that the most important thing I should do over the next few months is my job as Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs. So I've already reached out to Premier Ford, for example. Hope to see him in Toronto in the next couple of days. And I will be solely focused on the real economic threat that American tariffs represent to the Canadian economy and to Canadian workers. It's a full-time job. I'm lucky to have it, and I'll be at the Finance Department very early tomorrow morning.
Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc made that announcement just ahead of a federal Liberal caucus meeting at the Parliament Hill. The move was a surprise to many of his fellow Liberal MPs who argue LeBlanc should run for the leadership seat. MP Jennifer O'Connell said she hopes that Mr. LeBlanc changes his mind.
What are you saying? Dominic LeBlanc, should he change his mind?
He absolutely should. He has what it takes to beat Pierre Poilievre, and I think he has broad support from caucus. So I really hope he does reconsider and put his name in the hat, in the ring.
What is it that he has that you think could beat Poilievre?
Well, I think Dominic has incredible political sense, but more than that, he understands this country.
And Yasser Naqvi said that there is an effort to get him to reconsider.
When do you Two of your colleagues just came out and said they want Dominic LeBlanc to change his mind. Do you think that there's enough of an effort to get him to reconsider running for leadership?
There's a lot of effort to do that. You know, I've been saying now for the last 2 days that we need to make sure that we have a leader who's experienced, who's fluently bilingual, who is able to communicate with Canadians and present a positive vision forward. I think Dominic LeBlanc has a lot of talent. He understands politics really well. He's demonstrated again and again his belief in Canada, and I really hope that he reconsiders his decision.
But while Minister LeBlanc has bowed out of the race, several MPs have now said that they are seriously considering it, including Francois Philippe Champagne.
Well, I've been consistent that I'm seriously considering a bid for the leadership, but we need to know the rules. So obviously, there'll be a time to reflect on that as the party is putting the rules together.
Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon explained that he is waiting for the final set of rules from the party before he makes his own decision.
And can you just clarify, when will you be making a decision?
I think I just answered that.
You're waiting for the rules?
I'm going to wait for the rules. I'm going to obviously measure the kind of support I think I can conjure.
But you're thinking a decision by Monday kind of thing, or how fast do you have to?
I'm not going to put a date on it.
And Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says she's receiving a lot of support from across the country, but also has to factor in her family.
So for me, right now, the question I'm asking myself is, in the context of Canada-US, is where can I have the biggest impact? And so, of course, all of these different considerations that you're asking me are part of my reflection.
When are you going to make a decision? What else is factoring into your consideration?
Well, everything. You know, when this is such an important decision, of course you have to think about your family, your loved ones, my own projects to become a mother.
Incoming U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested that the U.S. break a pact with Canada that produces icebreakers. Mr. Trump says the U.S. should go it alone, adding it doesn't really want a partner on icebreakers. Public Services and Procurement Minister Jean-Yves Duclos has argued that it should be relatively easy to convince Trump to not scuttle the icebreaker production pact with Canada. The trilateral ice pact with the U.S. and Finland was signed under President Joe Biden and unveiled at the NATO summit in Washington last summer. It was designed to increase the number of existing icebreakers and protect the Antarctic and Arctic. All right, stay with us. Up next, Quebec's premier suggests that Donald Trump's threat of annexing Canada might actually be an opportunity to increase the balance of power. And Mexico's president gives her own candid response to Mr. Trump's comments about changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. We'll have these stories and more news from across Canada and around the world when we return. Stay with us. Forum Daily will be right back after these messages. Quebec Premier Francois Legault characterizes U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's comments on annexing Canada as an opportunity, quote, to increase his balance of power. Mr. Legault says the threat should be taken seriously, but says that there's clearly no question of whether Canada could be the 51st American state. In a social media post, Mr. Legault says that the statements are all the more reason to keep a cool head and refuse to play the president-elect's game. Canada's premiers will be in Ottawa next week for an in-person meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Canada-U.S. relations. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum responded sarcastically to Donald Trump's proposal to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Ms. Sheinbaum proposed that North America should be renamed America Mexicana or Mexican America due to an 1814 document referring to it that way. She also noted that the Gulf of Mexico has been named that way since 1607. Mr. Trump has threatened to slap 25% tariffs on Mexican imports, a threat that has also been made to Canada. At least 5 people are dead and nearly 2,000 structures have been destroyed as fierce wildfires rage in the Los Angeles area. Fast-moving flames are burning through homes and businesses as tens of thousands of people flee smoke-filled canyons in the picturesque neighborhood that are homes to many celebrities. 6 large fires include ones burning in the Pacific Palisades area, Altadena, and the Hollywood Hills. Arizona, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, and Washington state are sending teams to help, and about half a dozen Canadian aircraft from BC and Quebec are helping douse flames from the air. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says the province will spare no expense in providing help to California to fight the massive Los Angeles wildfires. Mr. Ford says that he's directed officials to send every available water bomber to the state. Water bombing pilots and crews from Quebec and BC helicopters are already there battling against the fires that have killed at least 5 people and forced thousands to flee their homes. Canadian actor Eugene Levy says that he faced gridlock traffic as he tried to vacate the area amid black and intense smoke. The Israeli government says that troops have recovered the bodies of 2 more hostages from Gaza.
Just yesterday, you would have seen that our brave soldiers from the IDF retrieved the body of hostage Yusuf Ziadnev, the Israeli Bedouin Muslim who was abducted by Hamas terrorists on October 7th from an underground tunnel in Rafah. As part of the operation, findings relating to Yusuf's son, Hamza Ziadnev, were also retrieved, which raise serious concerns for his life. The Prime Minister spoke for the nation, expressing deep sorrow on this bitter news for the al-Ziadneh family and for the people of Israel. Israel worked and hoped for the safe return of all 4 members of the al-Ziadneh family held hostage by Hamas.
The men were taken captive during Hamas's attack in October of 2023. A spokesperson for Israel's prime minister also updated the press this morning on how many hostages are thought to still be alive in Gaza.
Let me share with you fully up to date on the latest intel about our hostages. On the 7th of October 2023, 251 people were stolen by Hamas. As of today, 99 remain in Hamas captivity in Gaza. Now, this is made up of 95 hostages from October the 7th and 4 hostages since 2014. Our latest assessment is that 36 hostages have been killed with their bodies in Hamas captivity. This includes the bodies of the late Hadar Goldin and the late Oron Shaul from 2014. 34 hostages are considered dead from October the 7th. Now, from October the 7th, the remaining 95 people taken hostage by Hamas, 82 are men, 13 are women. There are also 2 children under the age of 5, the Bibas boys. 85 are Israelis, 10 are foreign nationals, 8 are from Thailand, 1's from Nepal and 1 from Tanzania. There are other nationalities and dual nationals as well. Of the 34 hostages who are no longer alive being held by Hamas, 1 is from Tanzania and 2 are from Thailand. And to give the complete picture, 156 hostages have been either released or rescued.
All right, stay tuned. Coming up, we'll be giving you a sneak peek at an exclusive interview airing this weekend with Hassan Youssef, the son of one of the founders of Hamas. After that, we'll have more of today's top national and international headlines. Stay with us. Forum Daily will be right back after these messages. This weekend on Saturday and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, the News Forum will be airing an interview with Hassan Youssef, who is the son of one of the founders of the Hamas terrorist organization. Our correspondent Isabella Hazan has more on her interview with Mr. Youssef.
So last week, I was invited to moderate a panel with Musab Hassan Youssef, who is the son of Hamas. He grew up in the upper echelons of Palestinian society, and he joined the Hamas Islamist movement. He was a part of this terrorist movement at 18 years old. He found himself in an Israeli prison, and long story short, he broke free from extremism, and today he's talking about it, and he's sharing his story because he wants to change the reality on the ground for his people, for Palestinians, and also for Israelis, to create a situation on the ground where there could be peace and justice. That's really where he comes from. He derives no benefit from this. He actually was silent for 15 years. He was living his life peacefully. But after October 7th, he saw the opportunity to join the fight to eliminate Hamas, and he's told himself that he couldn't back down. And it was a very powerful event, even though it was online.
They are aiming at me. I'm the genocidal one. And I say, why am I a genocidal? Because I say there is no way but the use of force, and the use of force is the last resort in our hands to restore order and to eradicate the savages who have been sacrificing Jewish and Arab children. So I say, what about you, who want to eradicate Israel from the river to the sea?
So of course somebody like the son of Hamas, the son of the founder, one of the founders of Hamas, is going to speak from a different place than someone who lives in a Western society. So I can understand why people on campus can say his statements are controversial, but we have to look at what he's doing and why he's doing it.
The vast majority of my society agreed on suicide bombing attacks, agreed on targeting civilians indiscriminately, and this is what made me disagree with them, which immediately got me disowned and shunned by them. And I was okay with walking alone. I say, if the price for my freedom is to walk alone, then I'm going to walk alone. I don't need your security. I don't need anything that your society is going to give me. I don't want to be part of your violence.
He is speaking to create a reality on the ground, and he is speaking from his lived experience. Growing up as the son of Hamas, he was beaten with lashes until he was unconscious. He saw the dangers of extremism, and today he is among the greatest advocates against extremism. So we hear him, especially today, it's very important to hear his perspective. He mentioned in our conversation how we cannot trust the Hamas numbers when it comes to the casualties. No Hamas fighters were included in them, and no men were included in the numbers released by the Hamas Health Ministry. So he's shining light on the fact that we cannot trust Hamas, not as a peace partner, not their numbers, or really anything that comes from them because of his experience growing up in there. Very traumatic, of course. He does not want to see a reality where his people are dying, where his people are suffering. But at the same time, he also understands that Hamas uses his people as hostages, that uses their homes, their schools, their mosques as military bases. And he mentioned that the opportunity right now is extremely important to eliminate Hamas, and that's why he has come back after 15 years to join the fight against them.
Enough is enough. We want to break the cycle. We don't want to globalize it. We want to localize it, and we want to realize that violence is a dead end.
We see a lot within the pro-Palestinian movement, pro-Hamas sentiment. We see it with their flags. We see it in how they, in their chants, globalize the Intifada. This is a violent chant. Intifada means death of Israelis. So we see that there is definitely a disconnection between those who are pro-Palestinian in the diaspora living outside of the land and Palestinians on the ground. Palestinians who just want to live peacefully with their neighbors, Palestinians who don't want to be oppressed by Hamas. So it's very easy to, support Hamas from when you're not living under them, when you're not the one being oppressed, when you're not the one whose voice is being challenged, when you can speak freely like in the West. So I think there's a serious disconnection between people in the West, pro-Palestinian supporters in the West, and pro-Palestinians on the ground.
The full interview with Hassan Youssef will air this Saturday and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, only here on the News Forum. All right, don't go anywhere. Coming up after the break, we'll have more of today's top national and international headlines. A Russian missile attack on the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia has killed 13 people. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau leads a ceremony marking the anniversary of the downing of Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752. And a new study suggests that your morning cup of coffee may be a healthier choice than you think. You'll have these stories and more news from around the world right after the break. Stay with us. Officials in Ukraine say a daytime Russian missile attack on the city of Zaporizhia killed at least 13 people and wounded about 30 others. Footage posted on Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's Telegram channel shows civilians lying in a city street littered with debris. Russia has frequently targeted civilian areas with bombardment throughout the almost 3-year war. And according to officials, at least 2 bombs struck residential buildings in the city. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was part of a ceremony in Ontario commemorating the anniversary of the downing of Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752.
5 years since that tragedy. 5 years fighting for justice, for truth. The path to justice is long. We have to keep working with our partners internationally and international institutions to hold the Iranian regimes accountable. We have to do that for many reasons, but top of my mind is, first of all, because justice is necessary to bring at least some semblance of closure. When you know that the perpetrators of this horrific act still walk free, are still free to oppress and murder their own citizens, to have a terrible impact around the world, you must and you will continue to strive for that. And it's also responsible because what you as families have gone through, what you as a community has gone through, what us as a nation, having lost so many of our beloved citizens, no one should ever have to go through again.
He suggested that grief is still strong for mourners 5 years after 176 people died when the plane was shot down by 2 Iranian missiles. 85 Canadian citizens and permanent residents were among those killed. The ceremony is one of several events worldwide to mark the anniversary. Ontario Provincial Police say an 18-year-old from Oshawa is charged with dangerous driving following a collision yesterday on Highway 401 involving Premier Doug Ford.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we were leaving OPG, driving down the road on the highway, and next thing you know, out of nowhere, a car got sideswiped, and that's all I can say. I'd have to refer this over to the OPP, but we were just driving straight. Next thing you know, you got hammered, just hammered.
You're okay. You're feeling okay.
I'm okay. This head's like limestone. It's hard as a rock.
Police say that the 2 people in the other vehicle were taken to hospital with minor injuries, and its driver will appear in court later next month. Earlier, Mr. Ford suggested the driver of the other vehicle may have been seriously hurt, while a spokesperson for the Premier said that the driver is believed to have non-life-threatening injuries. The head of the University of Alberta says rebranding the school's diversity, equity, and inclusion policy is a change that originated at home, not the U.S. University President Bill Flanagan says that some of the language around DEI can be seen as polarizing. The policy will be renamed Access, Community, and Belonging, but he says that the policy's fine print won't dramatically shift. Diversity programs have become a source of frustration in the U.S. since that country's Supreme Court banned affirmative action programs. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter was honored today with a state funeral in Washington, D.C., with a eulogy from President Joe Biden. Mr. Carter's other living successors attended the service at the National Cathedral, along with other dignitaries, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. A second, much smaller service will follow in Mr. Carter's tiny Georgia hometown of Plains, where he will be buried alongside his late wife. The dual funerals conclude 6 days of national funeral rites for the 39th president, who died late last month at the age of 100. Good news if you're a morning coffee drinker. A recent study shows that it has more health benefits than originally thought, depending on the timing that you're enjoying that cup. The research published in the European Heart Journal suggests drinking that morning cup of joe may lower the risk of early death compared to drinking coffee throughout the day. Morning-only coffee drinkers had a 16% lower risk of death and a 31% lower risk of dying from heart disease. I'm Teresa Skubik, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Remember, for more news on demand, you can always visit our website at thenewsforum.ca and make sure to follow us on social media. Good night, Canada.